Hey everyone, welcome back to the vlog. Thank you very much for coming along. We've got a big one today. We're working on the same orchestral piece that we've been working on for the last couple of videos, but now we've imported all the MIDI information from that Sibelius file into this monstrosity of a Logic file. We've got 353 tracks. We've loaded in 27.1 gigabytes of RAM. So yeah, it's a big project to be working on. And this is where I'm now programming the orchestra, making decisions about tone, programming the expression, the dynamics and the articulations for each instrument. So it's quite a time-consuming process, but really important. I'm making decisions about how things are being played, not mixing it, but just how I imagine the trombones to play their short notes, for example. What I'm doing here is I've split each instrument into longs and shorts. And then within that, I'm using multi-outputs to use 4 microphone outputs. So close, tree, outrigger, and ambient. So when I come to mix this later on, I have complete control of the sound. I'm really fortunate in that I have actually had a piece of music played by the BBC Symphony Orchestra in Maida Vale. And I've had stuff played by a lot of symphony orchestras, BBC Philharmonic, BBC Scottish, Bournemouth Symphony, Aurora Orchestra, quite a lot of orchestral experience live. So I really know the sound that I'm looking for when I'm mixing this. And this is why I'm using so many microphones, so that I can really control the sound and put everything kind of in its place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to print down all of these tracks into WAV files, and then I'm going to do a little mix and then show you where I'm at after that. So see you in a few seconds when I've done like a bit of a mix. See you on the other side.
A few moments later.
Okay, so since I stopped the video and I've come back, I printed down all those WAV files. I've imported them into my template, which is a really useful thing to have. It took me a long time to build it, but actually it's completely worth it because now it's a case of just moving WAV files into the right place. And I've done a very quick kind of mix. My process for mixing starts with getting the balance right. That's the most important thing to kind of do before worrying about EQ or compression or anything like that. Is just to actually get the general balance right. So that's what I spent a couple of playthroughs doing. Added a bit of automation. And then once that was kind of done, I did a little bit of corrective EQ, and then we added a little bit of reverb. So that's kind of how I've spent the last sort of hour and a half, basically just sort of doing a rough mix. It's definitely not finished, but I think what I'll do is I'll play it to you just now, and then I'll talk you through my kind of process and what I've done. And yeah, basically how I've kind of reached this stage. Hopefully that'll be interesting. So there you go. That's kind of like an hour's worth of a very quick mix. It's absolutely not the complete thing, but as you know, on this vlog, I like to show you unfinished raw things. So, as I said, my process was to just kind of get the balance right. And something which I do a lot of is listening in mono. And here you can hear if the bass is in the right place, the strings are in the right place. There's sort of no hiding in mono. If the mix is pish, then mono tells you if the mix is rubbish. And yeah, I use it all the time. So let's just talk about reverb a little bit. Reverb is obviously a really important part of mixing orchestral music. And you'll see here, I started with the strings because they carry a lot of information, and I actually have sort of experimented with 3 different types of reverb. So actually I might just play some of them for you now. So let's just go. So this is the one that I kind of settled on, Disney Hall. Originally, I was using this much richer Mechanics Hall, which I quite like. It puts it in a bigger space, but it was just building up the bass a little bit too much. I'm having to roll off quite a lot. The next one that I tried was the Film Orchestra in Berlin, which I quite like. Still quite a long tail on it. But the one that I settled on was Disney Hall, because it's kind of somewhere between the two in terms of richness and tail. And you'll see that it's got a slightly shorter low tail. What I'm also doing, because there's quite a lot of bass information on the go in the basses, I'm rolling off quite a significant amount of bass before that, before the reverb. Because if I don't have it there, what will happen is it just builds up very quickly. You can already hear that's a much bigger sound than with it in. Just controls it a little bit, and it still puts the basses in the same space. So with the basses, actually, I had quite a few things that I had to sort of do with them in terms of EQ. So first off, on the tree mic, this is great. This is really important why I can have different microphones and different control, is I'm just rolling out a little bit around about 80 Hertz, just because if I just play that on its own, actually, so you can hear that has a lot of energy, which can build up quite a lot over time. So I'm cutting a bit of that out just on the tree mic. And then I'm doing a kind of more general EQ. And this looks quite complicated, but without the EQ, it sounds like this. The bass is a little bit uncontrolled for me. So what I'm doing is I'm low shelving a bit of bass, just to take a bit of that low rumble out, putting a dynamic EQ around about 80 Hertz, just to take away some of the fuzz. And then I'm using the side mode on this Pro Q to take out the left and right information of the low end, so that the bass actually just gets sent straight down the middle, and that actually helps to clean up the bass quite a bit. So that's what's being removed. And yeah, that just cleans it up a little bit. What I'm also doing on the string shorts to kind of control the bass is I'm using this Pro MB just to, this is a multi-band compressor. And what it does is it just compresses this low end a little bit. So you can hear that that's just controlling it a little bit more. So yeah, that you can still hear the bass, I hope. It still sounds kind of full, but it's a bit more controlled now. So that's what I'm doing here. On all the strings also, what I'm doing is adding a bit of warmth with a tape emulator, I guess. That's just to add a bit of round off the sound a little bit, which kind of works quite nicely. So yeah, that's kind of my approach to here. In terms of EQ, I'm really not doing a huge amount. Very, very subtle. I try and keep it kind of as pure as possible. And I'm just taking out a little bit of 3000 on this violin one and a little bit of mids just to give it a little bit of space, but really nothing severe at all. The brass are a really important part of this piece. So I'm trying to control some of the harsher frequencies that we've got. So that's particularly around about 2000 hertz. I'll just play a little bit of that. You can really hear that harshness there. Maybe that's a bit much. Maybe that's better. I'm just brightening it a tiny bit at the top. Tiny bit. But again, quite subtle EQs. That's only taking less than 2 decibels out of that frequency. And then I'm done a very, very rough EQ on most of these, mostly just to roll out bass, because it's a really important thing to kind of get rid of that low rumble, because it really does build up in these type of samples. I should say that I am not trained in mixing at all. Well, a little bit when I studied at the Royal Northern College of Music. Tiny bit. But this is just using my ear and experience and YouTube videos and tutorials and friends showing me how to do things. This is me just literally using my ear and kind of experience of sort of writing music for 20 years and what I want it to sound like. So there is one thing that I'm kind of unsure about just now, and that is the drum kit, because it takes up a lot of space. And it actually sucks a lot of energy out of the piece. So if I mute it, I think it sounds pretty clean without it. And then if I bring it in, I kind of like it without it, which is really annoying, because I kind of have to now go back and rewrite almost the whole piece, because it gives it a lot of the drive, but I think it's just taking up too much space. What I might do actually is get a session player to actually play, because I suppose with the drum kit, you really want the live and the ghost notes and that kind of real, raw, rough energy to it. And perhaps at the moment, these East-West samples just don't quite have it just now. So yeah, I mean, maybe you can let me know in the comments what you prefer. It actually helps the bass control a lot as well by not having a kick all the way 4 to the floor or 5 to the floor in this the whole way through. Maybe that's something to think about. Anyway, that's the whole point of the vlog, is that I'm showing you stuff that is still work in progress and still need to make decisions. And a really important thing that I did is group things. So once I got my my mix kind of, or my balance sorted, I grouped things together to make automation much easier. You'll see I've gone through and automated things, and that's automating the levels, the actual just volume. And I've got a motorized fader here, which makes it so much easier, and it's a much more intuitive way of doing it. So if you do get a chance to get a motorized fader, it changed my workflow no end when I got it. I suppose I should talk a little bit about the decisions that I've made about the different mic positions and stuff. So, I mean, a very good example to actually take would be the bassoons, because they carry a lot of the information. So let's go to bassoon shorts and let's solo them. And you'll see the decisions that I've made here is for actually not very much close mic at all, more tree mic, not much outrigger, and a bit less of the ambient mic. And the reason for that is that if you think about where a bassoon is in an orchestra, is it's actually quite far back. You've got the whole strings section, and then the bassoons are kind of row 2 of the woodwinds almost, so kind of before the percussion. So as a result, you don't need that much close mic. Then if I bring the close mic really far forward, really changes the tone, doesn't it? Puts it right in your face. But obviously we don't want that. We want it to be much more distant Thing with woodwinds is you don't want them to sound really close. You need to give the orchestra that sense of perspective and move things back, which is why it's really important that the bassoon is actually not that close. So that's why we keep the close mic quite far down. So I really hope this is kind of interesting. As I said, I am not a pro mixer at all. This is just, I don't have a budget to afford someone to mix this for me, so I have to do it myself. And I really enjoy it because when I write the piece in Sibelius, I know the sound that I want, so I can have complete control over what it's actually going to sound like before I give it to a mastering engineer to kind of round off. So I'm going to release, in inverted commas, this track very soon, and there'll be a piano roll and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if you've got any questions or comments, let me know about the drum kit. I want to know if the drum kit's a yay or a nay. That'd be really interesting. But yeah, thanks very much for tuning in, and see you next time.